Welcome to the Academy, a series focused on the basics of Star Wars: The Old Republic. The Eternal Championship is a tournament where you face off against some of Zakuul's finest contenders. The fights are pretty fun, as they focus on different mechanics, and can help you practice playing your class solo and are a great way to prepare to enter endgame group content. You can start the Eternal Championship once you've completed Chapter 9 of Knights of the Fallen Empire expansion at level 65 or higher. You can also recruit the Wookiee Bowdaar as a companion by proving your worth to him by completing all 10 rounds of the Eternal Championship. To start the quest to gain him, you'll need to have completed the To Find a Findsman Alliance alert, then start the Freedom Fight Alliance alert from the Companions and Contacts menu, which will lead you to Platform 6 where the fights take place. If you're not worried about the Alliance alert, you can fly straight to the planet of Zakuul as long as you've completed Chapter 9. Once there, you can start the short introductory quest by speaking to the questgiver, Dominaire. The easiest way to get to Platform 6 once you're on Zakuul is to use the quick travel point. It's available even if you haven't explored Zakuul yet. Successfully completing the later rounds of the tournament will also gain you some neat cosmetic prizes. After speaking to Dominaire, you'll want to go to the quest terminal nearby and pick up all the weeklies and the solo quest. The Solo Plus version allows you to bring friends with you into the tournament, but you won't be able to gain any of the weekly rewards if you're on the Solo Plus version instead of the pure solo version. To complete the weeklies and earn currency you can spend on rewards, you'll need to complete rounds 5, 7, and 10. Important note about picking up the quests though, there's a years-old bug that happens if you pick up the solo quests and then the weekly quests afterwards, and you won't get any credit for them. So make sure to pick up the 3 weekly quests first, and then pick up the solo quest. Using the Eternal Championship trophy tokens, you can buy cosmetic gear sets and weapons, holo decorations, some less common color crystals like cyan, purple, and magenta, and even a walker mount if you run it enough times. One of the armors is unique to the Eternal Championship, another is animated, the blasters and rifles have a laser animation, and the lightsabers were definitely designed for a more civilized age. If you're trying to earn any of the token rewards, you'll probably want to complete the Eternal Championship once a week, while you have the weekly quests in your quest log. The tokens are legacy bound, which means you can transfer them between all your characters on your server, so you could actually run the tournament multiple times a week for rewards as long as you do it on different characters. In addition to the rewards you can buy with tokens, there's also some cool achievement rewards. If you defeat the first 5 rounds of the Eternal Championship, you'll earn the Mysterious Stranger title for your character, a throwback to the Knights of the Old Republic game. If you defeat all 10 rounds solo or with a group, you'll get the Master of Mayhem title. If you defeat all 10 rounds of the Eternal Championship solo, you'll gain the title of Eternal Champion. If you manage to go through the entire tournament's 10 rounds without dying, you'll earn the Deathless Champion title. If you're starting to get really good at the fights, you can earn the Sprint Champion title by running the Eternal Championship solo in under 15 minutes from when you start it. You can take breaks in the intervals between fights. If you really enjoy it, you can earn the Eternal Legend title by defeating all 10 rounds of the Eternal Championship solo on each of the 8 classes in the game. If you want to try this, but don't want to have to play all the 9 chapters to reach the point where you can start the Eternal Championship on each character, you can skip ahead in the story by starting the Osis storyline from your ship at level 70 or higher. Just keep in mind, this will autocomplete the Fallen Empire and Eternal Throne expansions as well as your class story if you haven't completed it yet. You can then travel to Zakuul on your ship. One important thing to know about the Eternal Championship is that unlike many other quests, you must complete it all in one go. If you log out, the quest will reset and you'll have to start again at round 1, so make sure you have a good chunk of time available to play it before you start. And if you're on a laptop, make sure it's plugged in. The quest also resets if you walk out and don't return within 15 minutes or so. In general, it's best to complete it all at once if possible. If you've gotten partway through and need to leave, you can still collect credit for the rounds you've completed by using the terminal in the arena to exit the tournament. If you do this, the next time you enter the arena, you will restart at round 1. For the rest of this video, I'll be going over some tips for each fight, but I actually recommend going into them blind. It can be really fun to dive a couple times and figure out the tactics for yourself. Dying isn't really a problem, and once you die, you can go back to the terminal in the room and restart the fight. This would be a good time to stop watching if you want to do that. If you're having trouble, feel free to come back here and I've added links in the description to skip ahead to the fight you're having trouble with. Apart from dealing with the mechanics of the fight, if you're still dying a lot, you can increase your companion's influence level to make them stronger, upgrade your own gear so you do more damage and take less damage, and keybind your abilities to make them easier to press in emergency situations. One important thing you'll want to know before going in is how to control your companion. When your companion is out, a series of abilities will show up beside their portrait, which is usually on the bottom left of your screen. Their first move is a command to attack, so if you want to send them to attack a specific enemy, you can click the enemy, then click their attack move. If you want them to stop attacking and run back to you, their second ability will turn them passive. Just make sure to click it again once you want them to attack or heal again. These two abilities are also keybound to Control +1 and Control +2 by default if you want to access them even faster. Around the arena there are also 4 healing Kolto stations. You can only use each one once during the entire tournament, so it's best to save them for the later rounds, especially the final round. With that said, for whatever reason, during the final round mine kept resetting, so I had all 4 available every time. Most players run the Eternal Championship as a DPS character, a damage character, but it's completely possible to do it as a tank or a healer. I mostly run it on my tank, although it takes a lot longer, it is definitely possible. In the description I'll also link to some other guides I know of, so if my tactics aren't working for your style of play, you can check out other players' tips too. Round 1. Arlaia Zayzen and her 2 droids. This fight teaches you about dealing with additional enemies who are helping their leader. One of Arlaia's droids is healing her, and the other is making her stronger. Instead of attacking her immediately, you'll want to take care of her 2 droids first. If you're losing health fast, I recommend going after the combat unit droid first. Round 2. Darula Grah and his trained Iknayids. The second fight in the Eternal Championship teaches you to deal with mechanics while continuing to do damage to the main boss. Darula will throw a red circle on you that moves as you walk around. After a few seconds, the red circle will turn yellow and drop on the ground where you were last standing. If his Iknayid bugs walk into that yellow circle, it will do them damage, so as they run in to attack you, you'll want to drag them into the yellow circle while staying out of it yourself. If your companion is dying, you'll want to try and distract some of the Iknayids away from them either by taunting them, if you have a taunt, or attacking them to gain their attention and then go back to the main boss. Round 3. Gungus Boga and his Heralds of Zildrog. This fight teaches you about how to handle getting out of large damage areas of effect. During the fight, Gungus will grapple hook you into the middle of the arena and place down a large yellow circle on the ground. If you don't run out of the circle fast enough, you'll be hit with a lot of damage, so your priority will always be to run away as soon as you can. While you're in the circle, you will also be slowed, so if you have any abilities that make you run faster, you should use those to save yourself some trouble. I assumed that my companion would take damage if they were also stuck in the circle, but although I took plenty of damage while inside it, my companion didn't seem to be hurt. As the fight progresses, Gungus also adds red fire circles around the outside of his yellow circle. These will do you additional damage, so you'll want to run out in the gaps between them. Gungus also has his Heralds of Zildrog with him. If you're on a stronger character, you can actually ignore them completely and focus all your damage on Gungus. If you're on a weaker character and you're finding you die a lot, keep your main damage on Gungus, but use your stuns and area of effect damage abilities to take care of the Heralds who are hurting you. Round 4. Conrad Om'wurt and his pet Chompers, the Undying. The fourth fight teaches you about switching between multiple bosses. In this fight, you'll want to start by focusing your damage on Chompers. Eventually, Chompers will fall to the ground and make Conrad more vulnerable, and during that time, you'll want to switch to attacking Conrad while Chompers is taking a little nap. As soon as Chompers is back up, you'll want to switch back to him and repeat the process of whittling away at Conrad's health whenever Chompers is down. Throughout the fight, Chompers will put red acid circles on the ground, which will damage you if you stand in them, so just sidestep them whenever they land on you. Conrad will also put yellow circles on the ground, which you'll want to step out of immediately. These will stun you if you stay in them too long and are very annoying. Much like the previous fight, you can mostly ignore the smaller additional enemies, and only start damaging them once there's too many around, or keep them stunned while you focus on the bosses. Some of the smaller enemies can also heal Chompers, so if you see a green healing beam coming out of one of them, you can stun them to stop them from healing Chompers. Round 5, Lanos and his Skytroopers. The 5th fight teaches you to watch out for shields and multiple mechanics at once. Although you should focus as much as possible on doing damage to Lanos, you'll want to watch out for 3 different things. The first is a set of 2 droids that have blue shields around them. These enemies will cause Lanos to become invincible, so you'll want to stun them to break their shielding powers or attack them to get them out of the way. The second is a squadron of 3 Skytroopers, which you simply need to fight so they don't clog up the arena, and the third is the unstable Skytroopers. This third type of enemy will focus a red laser beam on your character, then place a red circle on the ground below you which will explode if you stay in it too long. There will be about 4 unstable Skytroopers in a row, so you'll want to just keep moving the entire time they've got the red laser on you. Round 6, the Breaktown Brawler, Ripper, and King Crush. This is the fight that gives many players trouble due to its heavy damage and unforgiving mechanics. The first thing to know about the Brawler fight is that if you damage an enemy outside of their pink circle, the damage you do will be reflected back to you. So never attack any of the 3 bosses unless you are in very close range. Another important thing to know is that if King Crush and Ripper's circles overlap, they'll buff each other and both start dealing out double damage. This effect only happens between the 2 monster enemies and won't occur if they overlap with the Brawler instead. The third mechanic you need to be aware of comes from the Breaktown Brawler himself. If he gets close enough to you, he'll start placing a stacking purple debuff called Brawler Combo on you that causes more and more damage over time. In addition to these 3 difficult mechanics, all 3 bosses can also jump to you at any time, making it very difficult to keep Crush and Ripper apart, as well as making it difficult to avoid the Brawler's stacking debuffs. The most common tactic I've seen for this fight is to pick a monster, attack it, and once the other monster gets too close, just run away until they separate, and do the same thing if the Brawler gets too close as well. While you're away from the monsters, you can spend a few seconds attacking the Brawler boss, but don't stay near him too long due to the stacking debuff. During this fight, you'll want to make really good use of any speed buffs or leaps that you have to more easily move between bosses. You can gain a little more time on the monster if the Brawler is coming towards you by moving in a circle around the monster so that the monster is between you and the Brawler as you continue attacking. If you do it right, most of the time the Brawler will be close to you but will be just out of range to actually hit you. There's 2 ways you can approach the fight with your companion. You can either keep all the bosses away from them as best as possible, or you can deliberately have your companion attack one to keep them off of you. If your companion is dying too easily, you'll need to try and keep all 3 bosses away from them, but if your companion can survive when attacking them, it makes it a lot easier for you to take care of the other 2. This next tip is what helped me the most. The monsters have 2 different ways of acting during the fight when they're not attacking you. The first is being frustrated, where they beat their chest and place a red circle on the ground and smash it. As far as I can tell, this red circle doesn't do much damage, so it's safe to stand in. The other action they take is to place a red circle on the ground near you. This means they will jump to that location soon. If you're having trouble figuring out which one's going to jump, it's the one kind of looking around shaking its head and definitely not the one beating its chest. They usually do this around the same time. One will be frustrated and the other will be getting ready to jump, or will get ready soon. So if you run away from the one that's not beating its chest, the other one will eventually jump to you, creating some distance between them, and then you can go attack the one that's just smashed the ground for a while. Another fun mechanic is that the Brawler becomes untouchable sometimes. He'll just stand there casting, and when the cast finishes, he will punch in front of him. If he punches you, you'll get knocked back. Here's the fun part. If you position Crush or Ripper between you and the Brawler, he'll punch his own monster and you won't get knocked back. I've seen other guys recommend attempting to focus on one of the monsters, but on my character that didn't do a lot of damage, I had better luck jumping between all 3, depending on what monster was available. Although it made the fight take a lot longer, it meant I took a lot less damage by keeping them apart more often. Round 7, Nocturno and Drake Raven. The 7th Eternal Championship fight is incredibly hectic and teaches you to deal with many mechanics at once, including positioning enemies to your advantage and interrupting enemies. Nocturno does a lot of damage, so your goal during the fight is to get hit by her as little as possible, so you'll want to focus your damage first on Drake. During the fight, he'll throw a stun grenade at you. While it's a red circle, it will follow you around and then eventually drop to the ground as a stun grenade. You'll know it's dropped from you to the ground if you see a mine on the ground. If you're not out of the circle by the time it turns blue, you'll be stunned in place. You'll want to position these stun circles between you and Nocturno, because if she walks through them, she'll be stunned. When dropping these stun mines, you'll want to walk just outside the edge of them, so if Nocturno catches up before it turns blue, she'll be just inside the stun mine's radius once it does turn from red to blue. Drake jumps around a lot, so you'll have to keep positioning these stun mines even as he moves around. During the fight, your companion will also be kidnapped by a group of enemies. You'll want to rescue them as soon as possible by interrupting or stunning the large droid that is casting an ability on your companion. You don't need to worry about the other droids, as they will explode as soon as you defeat the big one. These droids can only be damaged if you are within the pink circle, just like the last fight. When going to attack the droids, I often struggle to juggle the interruptions and stuns on the droid, attacking it, and dealing with the stun grenades Drake was throwing at me. To handle this, I keybound my interrupt and stuns to keys I knew would be easy to press, and then whenever Drake threw a stun grenade at me, I would step only a few steps away and drop it nearby so I could quickly go back to dealing with the abductor droid. If you accidentally kill Nocturno first, Drake will become enraged and heal to full, do more damage, and the droids that come out will also be enraged, so you will always want to kill Drake first. Once Drake dies, you'll actually be able to loot his body and pick up the utility belt he was using, which will grant you some new abilities. One will deploy a stun mine in the location of your choice, one will jetpack you around the room, the third is a stun, and the last one will summon the droids that kidnap your companion, so don't use that skill. Using the stuns, finish up and defeat Nocturno. Round 8, Little Gut. This fight teaches you to position yourself to always be away from damaging effects. While you'll be fighting just Little Gut, the Rancor, in this round, his handler will throw down large traps into the arena that take up a quarter or more of the room. Little Gut the Rancor enjoys picking you up and throwing you over his shoulder, so you'll want to make sure his back is to a wall or open area of the arena, and his back isn't one of those traps. Little Gut also has a red circle and red rectangle you'll want to get out of to avoid damage. During the fight, an apprentice handler will show up. You'll want to focus on killing and interrupting it, as he'll try and buff and heal the Rancor. Round 9, the Doom Droid. The 9th round teaches you how to stay out of many types of damage on the ground, and how to deal with mechanics that can auto-kill you if you don't complete them fast enough. The Doom Droid has multiple different types of damage it puts on the ground. Yellow circles that you want to keep moving away from, a red laser you should make sure to get out of and not have it pointed towards your companion, and a little serving droid that explodes in a red circle. During this fight, the Doom Droid will summon 4 electrical droids in the center of the room. When this happens, you will need to kill all 4 droids as quickly as possible, because if you take too long, you will automatically lose the fight. If you're not good at dishing out damage, or you're on a tank and a healer and you just can't kill them fast enough, this may be a bit of a challenge. You'll need to really hone down on which of your abilities do the most damage and make good use of directing your companion to attack. Round 10, ZWTOR and Aftershock the Walker. This fight is the final round and has plenty of mechanics to watch out for. The biggest one to keep in mind is the probes that are deployed during the fight. Instead of attacking them directly, you should be focusing on the boss and helping them destroy each other. There's 2 ways to destroy them. The first is to stand directly between 2, and they will aim their red laser beam at each other and destroy each other if you've lined it up correctly. The other option is to destroy them by standing on them when the walker does its yellow circle missile attack, which will also destroy them. Be very careful where you stand, because in that yellow circle attack, it can also destroy the med packs around the room, which you will need later in the fight. The droid will eventually start focusing on you with an extremely powerful attack that will cause your character to make a lot of noise, and looks like a thin laser beam between the boss and your character. The goal during this part of the fight is to simply survive by all means possible. If you didn't destroy the Kotal tanks by accident, you can use 1 per laser beam for a total of 4 times. You'll also want to make use of any defensive abilities you have. Any utility skills that give you more healing or defense, Heroic Moment, which heals you when activated, the Unity Legacy ability that increases your defense by 50% for a short time, medpacks, and shield adrenals. Once ZWTOR shows up, the walker will start healing itself, so you want to do as much damage to ZWTOR as possible during this time. You can stun him to keep him from knocking you over, allowing you to do more damage. While attacking him yourself, you'll also want to command your companion to attack. Make sure to stay within melee range of Zotar, otherwise he gives a stacking debuff. In the final phase, Zotar will quarantine you in the middle of the ring and place painful electricity fields around the rest of the arena. During this part of the fight, interrupt and stun Zotar as much as possible to keep him from activating his walker, which will bombard your tiny middle area if it's allowed to function. Stay within melee range and do your best to avoid the circles the walker puts down. Congratulations! If you managed to make it past round 10, you have successfully completed some of the hardest solo fights available in the game. If you enjoyed this, you can do the tournament once per week on each of your characters for the weekly rewards. And if you're especially ambitious, you can work on the Eternal Legend title by defeating all 10 rounds of the Eternal Championship on each of the 8 classes in the game. If you're working on the token rewards, you can earn up to 6 per character per week, if you manage to complete all 10 rounds with the weekly quests. If you enjoyed this but are looking for something different to check out, the Veteran and Master Mode chapters of Knights of the Fallen Empire and Knights of the Eternal Throne have similar really difficult fights. If you guys have any questions or have any good tips about the Eternal Championship, I want to hear about them in the comments below, or if you want to share your story about how you spent 5 hours on this as a tank. If you want to show your support for this series, or to have similar Star Wars The Old Republic videos show up on your YouTube homepage, subscribe to this channel. And as always, may the Force be with you.